God's people head home. The story of Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel was one of King David's children's children, so he was one of God's people. But like many of God's people, he was far from home in a land called Persia. Persia was beautiful, the most beautiful land in all the world. But it wasn't where God wanted Zerubbabel. So one day, God whispered a secret to Zerubbabel. It's time for you to go home. And when you do, I have a job for you. Rebuild my temple. Rebuild God's temple? Zerubbabel could hardly believe it. The temple was where God came to be with his people. For years there had been no temple at all, which meant God wasn't there. But a new temple? This could only mean one thing. God was getting ready to live with his people again. Even the king of Persia wanted the temple to be rebuilt. He was fulfilling what the prophet Jeremiah had said. You won't be far from home forever. The temple won't be gone forever. Does it feel like you're all alone? Does it feel like my plans aren't working anymore? That's not the case. I'm still with you. And I still have a plan. Not just a today plan, but a tomorrow plan. In fact, it's a forever plan, and a good one too. It's a plan to take all the wrong and make it right, to take all the darkness and make it light. It's a plan to bring you back home to me. When Zerubbabel went to Jerusalem, he started to rebuild the temple. It was hard work, and a lot of people didn't want him to finish. They tried to ruin all of the work God's people were doing on the temple. But God was with Zerubbabel, even when he was far from home, even when building the temple was hard, even when his enemies tried to stop him. God was with Zerubbabel. And so the temple foundation was finished. Zerubbabel and a priest named Jeshua gathered many of the people together, and they sang the same song Solomon had sung when they built the first temple. God is good, and his love endures forever. The people sang and danced and played tambourines and trumpets. It was a loud day. But many people, especially the old ones, were crying. Why? Because they remembered Solomon's temple, and they knew this one just wasn't the same. But maybe, just maybe, the best way for God to live with his people might not be a temple of gold and wood and fabric at all. Maybe God needed to come to his people some other way. If God was going to live with his people, maybe he'd have to come to earth as a living, breathing person. Emmanuel, God with us. God had a plan. He was making a way to make wrong things right, to come and to stay.